Hi, team. Welcome to the Escape podcast for Star Wars The Old Republic. Coming up, a look back at SWTOR in 2015. But first, a couple bits of news and a shout out to our guild Alea Iacta Est on Jedi Covenant. Our broadcast astromech today is EPC 123. Hey, 123. Hey, you give me a little thumbs up there? No, that's not a thumbs up. Nice. Get in the pod. With me, as always, is Seema. Hi, Seema. How's it going?
Hi, and I have to say I like an astromech who speaks his mind.
Yes.
I'm having a great day here. We're actually recording in the middle of the day, which is interesting for us, different for us because we usually do it late on Monday night. But we're having the first real snowfall today of the season. So it's a snowy / cozy day here. I made some soup, I baked some bread, I'm drinking coffee now. I have some wine queued up for later when it becomes wine o'clock, so it's a good day here. How about you, Max?
Yes, it is also a good day here in the Chicago area in terms of it seeming like winter, I guess. Although, so it sort of snowed. It it but it snowed like this. It snowed slush. It literally
Oh no.
rained down slush that would stick and stack up on the ground. If it had actually snowed, it would have been like 2 feet of snow. But instead, it's 6 inches of packed slush. So I've shoveled like a third of the driveway last night, another third this morning. You have to each shovelful, like each 6 inches shovelful, it weighs 80 pounds, and you have to like carry it to the side of the driveway and drop it off.
Yeah, that is a different experience. Our snow is fluffy and white, and as we speak, I can hear through the closed window the sounds of other people shoveling my driveway. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. You just heard ice chunks and slush chunks bouncing off the windows all day yesterday. It literally was
Uh,
all day. Anyway, so I
Winter's
did that,
heavy.
a little of that. This week I also did PvP on 2 characters to the conquest limit. That was fun. Back on my Sork and Merc. Both of them are slowly getting all their 208 gear stacked up, and that's still fun. I'm still having fun with that. And we did hard mode Karaga's Palace, and I did some more heroics, although I haven't finished my spreadsheet yet. That will come. And I did get a bunch of parcels. I have one of everything that you can buy with parcels, but I want I want more. But you can get like 50 icicle chunks to put on the floor of your stronghold. So I spent some time just I think I was playing games on my phone and clicking on and throwing snowballs at Senya constantly. So I think she's upset with me. I spent an hour throwing snowballs at her face. But
I
that
think I could do that. What kind of game were you playing on your phone?
I play a little Candy Crush. I play Star Wars Heroes of the Galaxy. That's a
Oh,
little
I heard that's good.
squad based, turn based. Build your little squad and have it do these little mini battles. And what else? Little Fallout Shelter. Not a whole bunch, but a couple things. So that is it. Now we don't have much, but I guess we can talk a little bit about the news.
Now, an Imperial News Network report.
So not a ton of news, but you did do a little bit research into what you talked about last week was the
Yes.
NVIDIA Shadow
So
Play thing, right?
this is like the comes under the category of made up news. But last week they did announce the Build Your Alliance contest in partnership with NVIDIA, and that's basically where you take some gameplay video and you use their product Shadowplay to take it and then you post it to Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, your preference, as long as you hashtag it correctly with the Build Your Alliance and, you know, I don't know, I love NVIDIA. There was a second one, but we can look that up. But I did play with Shadowplay because I do have NVIDIA cards, and what I found was to use the feature, it's sort of DVR-like feature where you can have it running in the background all the time, but it only saves the recording once you hit capture.
Yeah.
So basically you can play the game as normal, but then if something neat happens to happen, then you can say, oh, let's capture that, and it can go back up to 20 minutes. For that feature to work, I had to put my game in full screen mode, which I normally play in full screen windowed for that feature to work. So
Yeah.
just, I don't know, a PSA.
Same thing. That wouldn't work well for me. I always play in uh, bling. That's me switching between windowed and full screen windowed. But I always play in full screen windowed because I have multiple monitors, and without full screen windowed, it's hard to switch back and forth between the stuff on your second
Even
monitor
with,
and the stuff on your first.
I play these days with one monitor, and so it's pretty necessary to go full screened window, or else you just can't. It's no fun to alt tab out at all because, yeah.
Right, exactly. So still, that's an interesting concept, and maybe they'll update it so they can be capturing a particular window and do it in windowed mode or something like that.
Well, maybe not though, because one of the cool things about it is you can give Shadowplay the permission to record your desktop, so it doesn't record just games like, Fraps or somebody would. And I mean, that's how Fraps can be more convenient. But with Shadowplay, if you wanted to, you could do a record of you clicking on things. I mean, a recording of you clicking on things on your desktop, and maybe you want to make a little video to show somebody, your uncle that doesn't know about computers how to blah blah blah. You could do this with Shadowplay, so that's kind of cool feature.
So there's that. Also in the news, apparently bounty contracts. I don't know if this was related to the Rakghoul mess up or something they tried to fix with the Rakghoul mess up or what, but bounty contracts got sort of messed up also, and so we lost another event. A little disappointing to have two of the events that they sort of, and if I don't know if you remember that big hype gamer stream. Part of the hype was, hey, we've got all these events for you in December also. Well, and two of them are broken. That got a little disappointing.
I guess they had expectations that they could, run them on some kind of automatic mode and everyone could just go home for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or however long it's been, but it apparently didn't work out that way.
Yeah, stuff breaks, and they're obviously people are out and on vacation. So, oh well, we'll get them back.
Which is a bad fit, right? Because this is a time when a lot of players are out and on vacation and want to play,
right,
a game or something.
Right.
They can play Candy Crush.
They can play Candy Crush.
It's not broken.
Candy Crush is not broken. This is supposed to be the time period that we're all watching The Force Awakens over and over and not paying attention to the
Yes,
game. That's why they delayed Chapter 10.
Yeah. We're supposed to be playing that other EA game.
Battlefront. Yes.
Yeah.
Which I still haven't gotten to. Because I was
things.
checking if I was waiting for bounty contracts. No. So we're almost done with all of our event schedule, but things are still, we have 3 things in progress. What do we have in progress that's wrapping up?
Well, the 4th anniversary stuff will be gone as of January 5th. We're still in the middle of Life Day, same ending date, January 5th. And only a few hours left really on Double XP, depending on when you listen to this. It's going to be over on January 1st. And then we're also in the countdown for the January 11th subscription deadline in order to get the HK55 companion. Just a reminder.
Yes. So that one we've got a little bit of time on. Life Day is the 5th. Okay, so Life Day goes through, that must be Tuesday. So if you want to get the parcels and things like that, you got to go through Tuesday. I wonder why they're stopping Double XP on the 1st. Whatever. Not that I was making much use of it.
No, me either, but you just can't help but wonder what goes through their minds.
Yep.
It's human nature to wonder.
And in guild and community news, we will continue with a mandatory fun night tonight if you are getting this podcast on Tuesday. We will continue with it next week as well for anybody that happens to be around this week and next week. We'll try to find something fun for everyone to do. And to everyone not yet in Alea Iacta Est, our guild is always looking for new members on Jedi Covenant. Our parent community, Alea Iacta Est, the big guild, is one of those large, family-friendly, multi-game gaming groups. We cover a whole bunch of MMOs and other games. We have a solid guild in Star Wars The Old Republic on both the Republic and Imperial sides. Guild info is on aie-guild.org, and you can catch any of our officers in-game with a /cjoin AIE LFO. And absolutely thank you to the chat room. We've got a bunch of people in there today. We're recording at a slightly different time due to holiday schedules, and it's fun to get everyone that's not able to join us late on Monday nights a chance to get in a midday. So that is awesome, and I will chat with you guys later after the show. But now let's look back at the year SWTOR in 2015, which is sort of the year of coffee, I think.
A man can have anything if he is willing to sacrifice.
Still an excellent voice over, isn't it? That is quite spectacular. So 2015 was the year of coffee in a lot of ways, because we were paying attention to and thinking about coffee for quite a bit of the time. But I went back, and Seema went back and looked at there was a lot of things going on in 2015. So we'll go back through it all. We'll try to figure out what our favorites things were and make some commentary. But let's kick it off. Way back in January, there were still things I didn't realize that to kick it off, that in January that 3.0 and Yavin and Rishi and all of that was only a month old at that point, wasn't it?
It was all still new, yeah. Shadow of Revan.
Yeah, in fact, it was new enough that it was buggy. And
remember that ramp in Rishi that disappeared for a month or two? Yeah.
And January brought us the first of sort of like the showcase exploit issues of the year. I think that was significant as well. Yeah. So if anybody doesn't remember the Cortani exploit, that was you were able to save the lockout on Cortani and bring people in and get hard mode gear or off of that last Cortani boss, sort of duping the gear. And BioWare handled it poorly and then used that as sort of the basis to try to handle things better for future exploits, which I think they have at this point. What's your sort of summary take on that whole Cortani thing to kick off the year, Seema?
Well, I know there was a lot of complaining about it because it did seem the main complaints I heard were people saying that it took way too long to fix it, and that it was it was in beta and they still didn't fix it and blah 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 blah. So I mean, I think the lesson to be learned is fix the stuff faster, and I think they are. I think maybe Cortani might have been like thornier for them because the encounter itself had something wrong with it, right? So they had trouble fixing it in general.
And we just sort of talked about this. The time that it hit again was right over the holidays.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's right.
One of those situations.
The holidays.
Where they were out of town, out of the office, and it took them a while to recover from that. Since then, I think their track record has been quite a bit better on exploits, being clear about what they feel about exploits, what's going to happen with exploits, and that you should not be doing it. I think the ambivalence that BioWare doesn't care about exploiting might as well go and do it. I think that's most people were even trying to say that about the most recent one, and when we get to November, December, we'll talk about it. But I think that's pretty much gone at this point, and they did pretty well.
I'm sort of amazed just looking back that in 1 year, we're still in the same year that we were still getting our sea legs in Shadow of Revan, and still looking at, like you made a note of the weekly Spirit of Cooperation, that weekly quest where you could get a full set of 192 armor for your companion.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it was still this year when we were gearing up our companions.
Right. And it was a big deal. And that weekly Spirit of Cooperation weekly was awesome at the time. wow, I get to whole
Yeah.
set of 192 gear for your companion, and this is going to be so important because now we can gear up our companions appropriately, and that sort of went away by the end of the year. But that was new in January. What else was new in January?
Well, PvP seasons. They did the
Yeah, so we had a couple
ranked
PvP
rewards.
seasons this year, and those,
Yeah.
yeah, those. I think they've done better at trying to come up with unique, interesting rewards on the PvP seasons. I think people still want new maps and PvP type arrangements content, but having those seasons is content in and of itself. So
I
there's
mean,
still there's still that.
I think next week we're going to talk a little bit about um, what predictions we'd like to see for the next, and maybe look back at predictions we made at the beginning of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And PvP does kind of figure into that.
Yes, that'll be a good
I
one
was
to have
looking
some
at that.
predictions about. Because we did get a little bit of news towards the end of the year that they're working on a war zone. We'll have to predict. We'll have to come up with our bets, take the bets, start the pool on when it'll actually show up.
Well, and we can look back. We made a few PvP predictions last year too, so
Yeah.
we can
So we'll
start
look
cycle
how
back to that.
at how wrong those were.
And then you were switching your main back and forth between PowerTech and Merc and then PowerTech.
Yeah, so I was looking through show notes, and that's one of the things that I did. I switched. I switched from Mercenary to PowerTech at the start of 3.0. So basically in December 2014, going into 3.0, because I wanted to go back to PowerTech. I really liked Vanguard. I had played Vanguard for quite a while in 2.0 to up to 3.0. Then I went to Mercenary for a while. Then I wanted to go back. I was going to go to PowerTech just so I could off-tank more easily and jump in and do that, which I still use my PowerTech a lot for that. However, especially with Temple of Sacrifice, and a little bit with Ravagers, those fights were just pretty harsh on melee characters. You had to be running away from the boss a lot, running out. You had to be switching targets, running back and forth. So with no gap closer on a PowerTech and having to do like the two Imperial Walkers, the second encounter in Temple of Sacrifice, I would just start to get more and more frustrated. When I play my Mercenary and I could just stand in one spot and go pew, 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 just switch back and forth. That was great.
Eat some toast.
Go make a sandwich. Go just put a weight on my one key.
Yes.
So I went back to Mercenary, and I had thought towards the end of the year here with 4.0 of I thought for about 2 seconds of going to PowerTech, but
Going back. Yeah.
I do play my PowerTech pretty often. So now we only have one ops night a week for our main group, our Lords of Light group. But on the mandatory fun nights on the Tuesday night when we do some sort of operation, I'm mostly playing my PowerTech and I'm mostly tanking. So they're getting equal use as far as that goes.
Equal love.
We also, in January, got the first kickoff of the year of sort of a first half view producer's roadmap. And that came out in sort of the end of January, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And that was some announcements that then we ended up getting later in the year for the outfit designer. So that's not even a year old. Ziost, which hadn't come out by that point. And that's when they announced Togruta and the new stronghold, which is the Yavin stronghold. So
And all four of those things did come out too. I mean, it wasn't like
yeah,
bait and switch or anything.
yeah. So that was another set of things that I didn't realize hadn't come out until looking further down in the notes. Togruta and Yavin, the Yavin stronghold, those didn't come out until July. When did is July also when we got the outfit designer?
It could be. I actually don't.
I don't have that in my
No,
notes,
my
but it was
memory.
later in the year
Yeah,
also.
it was later in the year.
So they were working on stuff this year in the first half before we even knew that they were working on, really hardcore on putting together coffee. They were doing stuff.
We did some really out there speculation on the outfit designer. I remember. No, I mean not just necessarily us, but you and me, but players in general. It's like, oh, it's going to be this. We can design that. But
Yeah.
The way it did come out, actually pretty happy with it. It's pretty flexible and easy and easy.
Yes. It's certainly a good costume system. You're not you're not designing outfits besides just putting gear on. I think that's what there was wild speculation on what weird things they could mean by designer. But yeah, it's a good costume system.
Yes.
You got a whole bunch of
Yeah,
tabs. Who did
I was at first disappointed, but then once I got into it, it was like, yeah, this is really cool. I didn't realize how cool it was going to be that I could just put my augments on my base armor, and I would never have to. I mean, my augment kits, and I would never have to worry about putting kits on outfits again. I could just
right? Just get
never
one
have to worry about
nice
it.
potentially legacy set that
Yeah.
that then you could even pass to a mirror character on the other side, and yeah, and never have to worry about them looking like a clown.
Yes. Unless, sometimes they show up in like cinematics and stuff in the base outfit, but that's I haven't seen a lot of that. But yeah.
Who did we see? I think it was Middle. So one of our
Yeah.
guildies,
Yeah.
Middle,
Yeah.
last week on Mandatory Fun Night. He has all 16 on his one main character at least. I think he's got 22 level 60s, all named Middle something. But on his main character at least, he had all 16 tabs, 16 different costumes that he was able to show off and model for us. So that was pretty cool.
And I mean, I don't know any other game where you can just stand there and click through your different outfits and everyone can see all your outfits that easily.
I think um not that a lot of people
In
play
Guild
it, but
Wars 2, you could switch very quick, but it was just there was like two.
I think Lord of the Rings you can do it.
Oh.
Lotro has a costume system
Oh,
that's
yeah, I never played Star Wars Galaxy, so I missed that completely. I wish I had actually.
also we saw so they had a weird thing that had potential and then they had to reel it back in. That was sort of in that February time frame that I thought was interesting. They were going to do that esports live Operation Victory competition where they were going to take a couple hard mode teams and have them run Ravagers, I think it was, and they're going to have them run
Yeah.
it live, and they were going to have prizes and that kind of thing. So, but then what? They by April they canceled that, right? Or
I
by
think it was
March, by
even
the end of
it was
February.
they had to cancel it. It was pretty quick because they couldn't fix the Cortani fight.
Yeah, they couldn't fix the Cortani fight, and they decided that it wasn't worth redoing it, or it didn't turn out how, it wasn't working for them even after they had fixed it. Or I don't even know. But
They said something like they picked the Ravagers because they felt that there weren't enough players that were actually going through Temple of Sacrifice. I remember them saying that, and then, yeah, but then they had to close it down because they couldn't fix the Cort. They didn't say this, but they never fixed the Cortani fight so that it was a fair contest. Like some teams still get bugs where she respawns or whatever.
yeah, yeah, which is a little bit of a
Resets.
shame, a little bit of a missed opportunity, I think, because
Yeah.
doing more of that really public stuff could have been interesting. Could have added to the interest around the game a little bit more than they have.
But it did give some players in the community the idea of doing an informal contest like that, and I think some people did do that, and I applaud that for sure.
Yes, that's true. They did. There was a. You're absolutely right. I think was it. I don't know if it was based on Reddit or in the forums or both. Someone put together an opportunity for people to record their guild doing a run and submit that recording, and someone was the sort of the judge and arbiter of what the timings were, within some window of opportunity, and whoever had the fastest run won some sort of prize. So community led events like that are awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see, also early in the year there, around February-ish, Courtney moved to the writing team from the community team. And then what? Throughout the year, we saw quite a few of those stories show up on the website of where she did sort of like little backstories for
Hmm.
Theron and Lana and a couple other people, which I think those turned out pretty well.
Yeah,
And
and that's what she always wanted to do, so that's cool.
yeah, so I wonder how much it would be pretty cool to find out how much she wrote of coffee. It
I wonder too.
Because it sounded like they pulled her into the full writing team and she had done a bunch of
Yeah,
tag team writing with the other writers. I saw a couple tweets from some of the other writers saying, "Hey, it's great working with Courtney."
yeah,
So I
I
would
saw that
wonder.
too.
Um, See if well, maybe we'll have to ask her. Maybe we'll have to get her on the show someday and and ask her what she wrote. If she if she wrote the montage scene for the
Oh, right.
then she wins the coffee writing competition.
That's right. She does.
What else did we get sort of early in the year there, February, March timeframe?
They started live streaming Cantina events, which was a relief to me, no matter how, if they had problems with it or whatever, because then I didn't have to try and watch them on somebody's um, video footage taken from their cell phone or whatever.
Right.
Um, they also, kind of early in the year, introduced that Cantina mount with the codes, and then you get a code and you redeem it, then you get 5 codes and you give it to 5 people, and by the end of the year they're doing like 50 codes but however they did it, it pretty much gave everyone the opportunity to get those Cantina mounts this way, and I thought that was pretty cool.
I thought that was clever too. Sort of that tried to make it a viral thing.
Yeah.
And but they did, I think by the end they did one of the streams where Tate had a code of his that was unlimited use. So if you got his, anyone could use it and it didn't expire after 5. But still,
Oh, that makes sense.
I should go back. I'm not even positive that I unlocked all of them. I think I did. It'd be worthwhile
Oh,
to go back and check and
I
make
know
sure
I
you
did.
unlocked them all. And we'll have to get a list of how many there actually were and make sure they're all unlocked. In our guild forums, we always had a thread for people to post their codes, so you could probably even still go back through there and find some codes that are still available.
Yeah.
By April, we saw they added Mount Flourish. Or was it added in April or announced in April? Somewhere around early in the year there. They added Mount Flourish to the game. That was interesting. They announced and then shortly thereafter added the whole travel improvements. Remember that? That was April. That was a
That was
big
huge.
deal. So
A super big deal.
with the unlocks, you have 0 cooldown on quick travel, 0 cooldowns on the travel to the legacy travel to priority transport to planets if you've unlocked those, and the auto unlocking of all flight points on planets, so you don't have to you know RP slow walk to find every flight. Although I still do that the first time.
Of course you do.
Um, and then if there's an explosion, I have to turn around and RP slow walk away from it and not look at it. But yeah, that was a big deal. I'm glad they added those to the game. I've Across the history of MMOs, there's always been a debate, or historically there's been debates about, does fast travel in its various forms have a negative impact on the game. I remember I think Vanguard, if anybody remembers that game when that was in development, which barely got out of development, it didn't last very long. But I remember being in the beta for that and having these huge long threads of all these people debating how there should or shouldn't be ways to have fast travel and how it would ruin the game and make the world smaller and yada yada yada. I don't feel like SWTOR feels any bigger or smaller due to
No,
having or not having fast travel.
no. And last year too, I watched a podcast of these guys, and it was during when there was a lot of brouhaha around Sony's new MMO that they never got to, EverQuest Next.
Mm.
And these guys were talking with much love about the original EverQuest and how, you know, fast travel, like flying and everything, just ruins a game and people just don't understand. And they went on and on and on. And I watched them again the next week, and they were like, "Yeah, we went back to EverQuest and we walked from here to there, and we decided we all changed our minds. We like fast travel now."
Yeah.
Because we were all different people back then, and what we wanted out of games was different, and games evolve with us.
Yes.
And travel is one of those things that is a hallmark, I think.
Yeah. And that is so boring. I
Yeah, it's so tedious.
don't I I remember in World of Warcraft, in order to get, I loved fishing for some reason. So in vanilla World of Warcraft, to get to Stranglethorn Vale as a low-level character to get fishing right away, you could go out into the ocean and swim all the way down, right? But it would take like
right.
a half hour of swimming. And
Yeah.
it would be like one of those literal, I'm going to make a sandwich. I'd like put my character in the water, point it that direction for a half hour, let it go swim, and leave.
That's funny because I would do the same thing, except for I would go down the road in Stranglethorn to get down to Booty Bay, and I would just die my way to Booty Bay.
Corpse hop, corpse jump. What would?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I had an aversion
But
to dying.
back in the day, when I was playing MUDs, see, there's a date myself there. Um, you, if we went into this one MUD I played, there was an area that was supposed to be, I forget if it was snowy or swampy or whatever, but travel was supposed to be harder. You would walk into the room, and there would literally be a 3-second round time. So you would be stuck for 3 seconds, and then you'd walk into the next room and be stuck for 3 seconds. And I'm like, even then, I was like, why is this supposed to be fun?
Exactly. Yeah. So I do see the both sides, and I see commentary in the chat room that there are people that still feel the other side is valid and warranted, and in some ways it is, but I don't know. I think it's been okay for me for SWTOR, and if not, feel free to not take advantage of it. I don't think
That's right.
it's one of those that I think if you want that feel of exploring and looking around, you can still get that to some degree. You might still feel a little bit weird that everyone else gets to jump around, but you can ignore those people. What else? By about April, we got 12 XP started up
Oh, that's right.
in April. That was a big deal for quite a while, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it lasted most of the year, starting in April. How did you level a whole bunch of characters? What did you do with 12 XP?
I did level. I mean, what I tended to do with 12 XP was go back to my characters that were almost leveled and try to get them up to max level, which in April was probably 55, was it?
60. 60 for 3.0, 65 for coffee.
Right. But anyway, yeah, I did start some new characters, to level with friends and stuff, but those I didn't actually get to max level. Too many of them.
All my characters are max level.
I mean, what did you do with 12x?
Well, since all my characters are max level, because
God.
I did level up a couple characters. I did not take as much advantage of it as I wanted to. Although leveling is still fast, and I'm still not taking advantage of it on the characters that I keep thinking, why don't I get that character? I've got a couple crafting characters that I mostly only use for crafting, but like my one synth weaver can only send out 3 companions, and I keep thinking, I should at least level it up so I can send out more companions, and I never do.
Yes, that's right. I remember that too. There was a bunch of characters I had to get to 56 so they could get that, was it 5th or 6th companion to go out? But yeah.
Right. Also in April, by the end of April, we got Ziost. And you and I were talking about this before the show started. Ziost feels to me like the start of them getting into this feel of episodic content in a couple ways. So Ziost was sort of like the final episode of Shadow of Revan, And Zyos, if you remember, was sort of 2 episodes in and of itself. There was the
Right, and they learned something from that too,
right, because they did
it
it
was
weird.
kind of rocky
Right,
the way they rolled it out. Yeah.
right. It was a little bit weird, and people didn't get what was going on by the end when they because you finish up the first half of Ziost, and at the time you didn't realize you were done, and you had to like go to that terminal up on the fleet, and the terminal says come back later, and everybody was like, is this broken? Is there a problem? I don't understand what's going on.
It's fun. Why did we just leap to the conclusion that it might be broken?
I don't know.
I just don't know.
I find your lack of faith disturbing. Exactly.
But it couldn't be more clear now the way they do the episodes that you're starting up a new episode, or you're between episodes, or you're in the story or you're not in the story.
Right, exactly. It is quite clear. They're all labeled as episodes, and you're jumping in and out. They almost went. I was gonna say they went too far, but the
It's almost
story
too
is
separate.
yeah. It's sort of too yeah. It's too separate, but you can still go to Zakul and you can go to Odessen. Jumping in and out of the story, it being sort of pretty separated from the rest of the content and separating from other people in most of the way it plays, makes for a really good story, but it is sort of outside the core of the game in some ways. Let's see, they also, by mid-year there, they were making some updates to how PvP rewards work. They announced how they were going to do those season tokens. I have not gotten into ranked, but I forgot about that until I was looking back through these notes. You can do ranked matches if you get with a ranked team. You've got sort of the minimum gear barrier. You can get in there, and even if you don't win up to a particular rank, you can save up a bunch of the ranked tokens and buy one of the ranked rewards from the list of possible rewards. So that's an interesting change I still haven't taken advantage of, but maybe I should. I don't know how ranked PvP is these days on Jedi Covenant. I should do some experimentation and research and find out.
Yes, report back to us on that.
Get in there, have a bunch of people call me terrible and that I should delete my character, that kind of thing. And come back to the podcast the week after crying and tell you how it was. What else?
Also, the nightlife event came back in the middle of the year, so we got to do some fantastic gambling in Nar Shaddaa.
I love
and
the
I got
nightlife.
my Rancor.
Yes, you did.
That time.
And so did Apples.
But I still have not learned it because
Oh, really?
I'm paralyzed by indecision of who to learn it on.
So it's in that Schrodinger's state where it both is and isn't your Rancor on any particular character you're on.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. I'm waiting for BioWare to make mounts account-wide.
Yeah. And in some ways, the cartel ones can be account-wide if you unlock it for the account. But some of those rare ones that you can't, I mean, especially the ones you can't get anymore, I'd love for some of those to be account-wide or to have some option or some way to make them transferred to other characters or at least one other character or something.
It would help me a lot if they would just make them all unlockable, because at least then I wouldn't have that paralyzing thing. I would have a different decision.
Right.
It would be, I can learn it, and then I can pay 90 cartel coins later if I really decide somebody else I want it on a different character. That's a whole different decision for me than, oh my gosh, it's a permanent, who gets it?
Right, exactly. And they could make a boatload of cartel coins off of it, potentially. I have a few of those mounts. I have some of those old, what were they? They added the Duke and the...
Yeah, those, but the back in the day when they were the only taxi style mounts, and you got
a
PvP.
couple of those real big triangular ones that were really cool. And I got like the PvP version of it that was really hard to get, and I got another
Borealis something.
Yeah, that sounds right. So I'd love to have that. I think I have those on my Vanguard. I'd love to have them on all my characters.
Yeah, you definitely, stuff like that you should be able to unlock, because you got that in a way that, you know, not many people did.
Right.
That are,
And then we got into about mid-year, and all of all of that sort of started the second half of the year and the lead up, the announcements, and all of the streams talking about Knights of the Fallen Empire. So I think it was
Right.
around that middle of the year, around June, when that first trailer came out, and we heard the whole sacrifice. Where is it?
A man can have anything if he's willing to sacrifice.
A man can have everything. my,
You sound just like him.
my voice doesn't do that. If he's willing to sacrifice. So we got the whole trailer that kicked it off, and then a series of streams, and they did a bunch of live streams then throughout the year, and they did playthrough of content, and little mini spoiler things were coming out in that content. But now looking back, I feel like less was spoiled in that content than I thought was getting spoiled. So
Yeah.
what was your impression of sort of how that reveal and streams and everything went throughout the year?
Well, I thought it was painful while it was happening because they made these sort of dread-filled comments about, maybe you're going to lose one of your companions, and everybody was like, "Oh no, which one? Tell me which one, so I'll know how to prepare." Blah 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 blah, which they didn't respond to, and in retrospect, I see why, because there isn't really a response. Basically, they changed the whole companion system,
Right.
and so what they, short of doing an announcement that showed the ins and outs of the new companion influence system and the alliance system, they couldn't really tell us much more.
Right. Right.
Although I don't think it would have been a bad thing to maybe tell us about who knows, but yeah.
I think it was fine. I think they, you know, it didn't really hurt anything all that much. It's, I leveled up a bunch of characters and got a bunch of affection on the characters before I switched over, which maybe I didn't really need to, because some of them you're not going to get back necessarily. Although I think through that one terminal you
I think
can
it
get.
turned out okay.
But yeah, I think it
I
all
think
turned out okay.
The anticipation was very colored by angst, though. Instead of people looking forward to coffee with unalloyed joy, they were worried about their companions. They were worried about, it just slipped my mind what I was going to say there, but it was like, what's going to happen? Oh yeah, we got the note about no new flashpoints or operations, so they're worried about, are their friends going to quit, and what's going to happen? Am I going to be too bored or whatever? I mean, so yeah, that anticipation section time was uncomfortable for me.
Yep. Yep. But
Later, Yultar.
it was, I even think that was okay. I think it's good to have a little speculation and maybe even a little bit
angst now and
of
then.
angst, because it keeps things spicy. And
Spicy.
you don't have big threads, big long threads on Reddit or in the forums about the thing that's pretty good that everybody generally likes. So
I don't know. I mean, I think if they would have published what the alliance system was going to be, or the companion influence system was going to be, they would have had long threads about how it sucked and how it was going to be great. So I don't know.
True.
Maybe I disagree with you on that.
true, they probably could get, well, there's two sides to everything.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
But so we got that lead up. Was much happening? Was much getting announced or updated throughout the year besides just, well, so in July we still got Togruta and the Yavin Stronghold. That was announced.
Right.
That's probably about when we got the costume system. Then they started just mostly doing reveals through the second half of the year. But they stayed pretty public. So they were out at Cantina events. They were out at, like, the New York Cantina event was in October, and they did the big cosplay contest. That was pretty interesting. And they were continuing to do the reveals of how the combat system was going to work. A little bit more on what and like the crafting changes update where they talked about that a little bit more about what they were going to be doing with Conquest, how the nightmare modes were going to be working and not working, and how that was going to turn out. Insta 60 was introduced and sort of as a concept, and then came out with the release as well. So we actually got the coffee release in October, and that seems longer ago. When I look, looking at the notes and looking at the calendar, it doesn't feel like it's been out that long, and it actually has been 3 months now.
I'm totally used to all the new stuff now too. Like it's always been that way. Like
Or that.
the whole thing about companions not needing gear anymore, it just feels natural to me now.
Right. Right, it does. That feels natural. It does seem like, yeah, I don't know. I do want chapter 10, but I guess I would have preferred chapter 10 in January, and I think that would have been probably the best schedule. Because if it was coming sort of in the next couple weeks, I think that would have been a perfect amount of time. I think waiting till February is probably a month too long.
Right.
But
I have this speculation, which is completely irresponsible on my part, that they made a deal. If you guys can work whatever hours to get coffee out on schedule, then you can have December off.
maybe,
And that's why they can't have chapter 10 in January too.
maybe.
Because they do seem just very not at home right now.
Right. Exactly. They certainly have sort of checked out. Even on the issues or a server going down, there's a couple messages on the forums, but not much else.
Yeah. I appreciate that Eric and Tate are still, reading the forums and making some responses, but they only have so much they can say.
Right.
When things are not getting fixed.
Right.
But
Exactly.
anyway, didn't mean to go back into that again, but yeah, it does seem to me. It seems like longer. I guess is what my point was going to be. Like we've just, this is how it is now. It doesn't seem like to me like it was just 2 months ago really that everything changed.
Right. Exactly. So it has been a pretty consistent schedule of updates and things coming out throughout the year when you look back at it that way. At the time, it seems like nothing's happening, and boy, it takes forever for anything to happen. But
yeah, and we comment every week about how it doesn't seem like there's much news. But in 2015, we had just gotten Shadow of Revan. We got a new race. We got a new stronghold. We got 2 new chunks of content, Ziost and Coffee. We got complete revamp of, the companions. I mean, there was a lot went on this year.
yeah, it did. There was quite a bit. So, and to be fair, we did wrap up with Coffee with a few misses. We did have, there was the whole hype stream, which I wouldn't say that was terrible, but I would say it was a little bit of a miss.
Yeah. But on the upside, we had so much fun with that.
Yes, it was content for us. There was
Yes, it was.
the Nightmare loot announcement, which is still frustrating, I think, and I'm surprised they haven't gone back on that at this point. In that 224 loot, only maybe drops from Nightmare modes, and if you want,
maybe they will go back on it though, because they didn't do anything. They're not doing anything in December, so maybe they're going back on it. Won't happen until January.
right, exactly. So there's still an opportunity for that to come back and get fixed up. They did the whole companion nerf and then slight unnerf, and they sort of waffled back and forth on that, and that went on as Coffee released. They had another exploit, although they were pretty heavy-handed on how they handled it. I think it went on longer than it should have, but they were doing their thing and doing what they needed to do about it, and we're pretty clear about how they wanted to handle that item stack exploit, and handed out some bans and some suspensions and took away a bunch of credits and items from people. They did finish off the year at least with an announcement for the PvP community that a new Warzone is being worked on. And they announced that they will be announcing something about it. Something.
They had a pre-announcement for the pre-announcement.
Right. So, all in all, as you said, I think it has been a busy year. Busier than you're right. Looking back, it's busier than I expected.
And ZX in chat just made the best comment ever. It's like any MMO, it's mostly about making friends and having fun with the group content. For me, it's fine, really. I agree. It's all about the people.
Which, so to sort of wrap it up on that note, we did a lot of that this year for us, for the podcast. We had lots of guests on the show, and that was really fun this year, I think. Our guild still continued to do a mandatory fun night pretty much every single Tuesday throughout the year. So that was quite fun. We didn't miss a Monday, Tuesday podcast. We didn't miss a week of the podcast this year.
That's right. That means 52 podcasts in 2015.
Yeah, so
or something like that.
It's we've continued to chug along, and obviously are still continuing to have fun, or we wouldn't be doing it. So I think it was a good year from that perspective. Which leads us
and just,
to,
since we're talking about that, mandatory fun night, if you're on Jedi Covenant, you're invited to come and join us anytime. Just send me or Max a tell or something, and if there's room in the raid group, you'd be more than welcome to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Help us
we love
have fun.
we love guests. That's always a good time. Now, next week, I think we're going to look ahead to 2016 and do our annual wild speculation podcast. Any of you out there in the chat room or that are listening to this that want to shoot us something on Twitter or post it in the forums or something, and let us know what your speculation is for what you think is going to happen in 2016, let us know, and I'll try to read out some of those next week. That should be fun.
It can be speculation or desire.
Yes, what you hope or what you expect, which are two different things.
It doesn't have to be reasonable either.
Right.
Just...
Yeah, well, I think we'll probably do a couple Wall of Crazy wishes of our own, and then a couple down-to-earth expectation setting predictions of our own as well. So to wrap it up, Seema, what do you have to say about 2015? What's your message?
I guess 2015 was a fun year for me in SWTOR because there was a lot in it, and because I think maybe you were kind of alluding to this, because there was the highs and the highs and the lows. It was like a wavy year. It wasn't just more of the same all year. It was like, oh, I can't believe this is happening, and oh, this good thing is happening. Oh, I can't believe they did that. So it was a fun year. And I made a note here too that my favorite patch note of the year just reads, ship parts no longer affect the bolster system.
There were quite a few hilarious bugs and patch notes resulting throughout the year. Yeah. That's content and entertainment in and of itself. So yes, another good year. This has been a few years for us now. I had fun. I certainly had a ton of fun with the game, but also even as people are saying in the chat room, with the people that we were able to interact with in the greater SWTOR community, with things like the Galactic Gamers Coalition podcast, with the chat room, with the people that have joined us in Guild that we've gotten to go play with. What did we go? We did a Galactic Gamers Coalition and went and did some operations on Shadowlands, was it? That we did some Insta 60s on. It's certainly continued to be a fun year in Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing we made a note of, but forgot to mention, and this is what I did for that ops, is I did the 90 cartel coin character transfer.
Yeah, and it was plenty of ways to still have fun with the game, even if we're missing some of the things that we were hoping we were going to get, and we don't have new operations content. It's still been fun. So thank you, BioWare. Thank you, community. Thank you, everyone in our guild. Certainly, it has been a good year, and we look forward to 2016. And I think with that, we can kick one more astromech out an escape pod as he gives me a little thumbs up.
The thumbs up.
Oh, wait, that's not a thumbs up. Thank you to all of you for joining us on newoverlords.com, on iTunes, YouTube, or live on Twitch. We will stream again next week for our first show of 2016 on Monday night on twitch.tv/newoverlords around 10:30 p.m. Central. Please follow us on Twitter at MaxTheGray and at AIESEMA. And you can certainly find us on Jedi Covenant and come join our guild. You can do a /cjoin AIE-LFO and we will get you set up. And we will talk to you soon.
Later, everyone.